Well, welcome. Thank you all for coming to this presentation tonight, Natural Family Planning, Pure and Simple. My name is Georgia Schmitz. I'm a fertility care practitioner of the Creighton Model Fertility Care System, and I teach through the Franciscan Sisters of the Eucharist, their Franciscan Life Process Center. And I'm with Laura Chapin, who is a Sympto Pro instructor through Northwest Family Services. So two different types of natural family planning, which we'll tell you about in this presentation. So, natural family planning, pure and simple, was the title of the talk. As we have heard, the church teaches that the only moral means to space or even to avoid pregnancy is by the use of natural family planning, or what we call fertility awareness-based methods. And that's because the church teaches that each act of the marital union, each act of intercourse within the marital union, needs to be unitive and procreative. There's this delicate balance that God designed between both of them. And so we need to obey that as human beings. So put simply, NFP, the short term for natural family planning, involves the free choice of the couple to engage in intercourse or abstain from intercourse based on the knowledge of their fertility on that day. So, what is NFP? It's really just, it's fairly simple, like the title says. Simply the knowledge the couple has about their fertility on that day. They gain that knowledge through the reading of the biological symptoms that the woman presents with. So NFP is a lot of things, but it's not rhythm method or calendar rhythm method. It's very scientific. It has extensive research, and it's been used as far back as Old Testament times, if you read the laws of Leviticus, to today. And of course today has been all of our most modern research methods and technology has gone into figuring out this fertile period of the woman. It's very scientific. It involves mutual and daily charting of your various biological signs. So it's designed to be used by both the man and woman in the couple together. So the couple, like I said, they just basically choose to engage in the marital act or avoid the marital act at that time based on the information of their charting. So they can just say, today's a day of fertility, or today's a day of infertility. And so what I like to call that is, some methods call it responsible parenthood, but I also like to call it conscious parenthood, because they're consciously choosing. We have a free will, and they're using that and using NFP. Go ahead. Laura's going to present this section.
So there are a number of different reasons that people may come to use NFP, and I want to run through a few of those. So if we start with the biological level, we have people who are becoming more conscious of what they're putting into their body. They're trying to avoid hormones in their milk and in their meat, and when they're thinking about taking hormones in the form of a pill every day or implanted into their body, often women will start to look for a different way. And we also are getting a lot more information about all of the side effects that are coming with hormonal contraceptives. Some people come for relational reasons. There's mutual cooperation that's involved in using NFP, and that really helps to strengthen the relationship. So there's abstinence during the known fertile time that does require a partnership from both parties, and that time of abstinence can be used to strengthen other aspects of your relationship as well. We know that sexual intimacy is only one type of intimacy, and this really gives a couple a chance to be strengthening and focusing on some of those other areas. We know that couples who use NFP have really low rates of divorce. I was looking at some of the studies about this a couple nights ago, and it sounds like, we know that's at least correlational, and that they're starting to do more research trying to figure out what the causes are with that. But even when they're starting to pull out the sort of religiosity of that, we're still getting really low rates of divorce just from having ever used NFP in the relationship. And I think a big piece of that is that strengthening of the relationship that comes with using the method. From a philosophical standpoint, NFP is a way to treat your fertility as a normal, natural process. It's based on fertility acceptance rather than fertility suppression. And this process of charting and observing signs allows a woman to really get to know and accept her body in a different way, and for men to accept and understand her body too. And I think couples feel really empowered by that process. And then lastly, there are spiritual reasons. This allows you to be in line with church teaching. It allows you to be in line with Humanae Vitae and some of the other documents that are out there. So as we've mentioned, intercourse is both unitive and procreative. With contraceptives, those act as barriers to prevent either the sperm and the egg from meeting, or it prevents it from implanting. But with NFP, we understand when a woman is fertile, and if a couple's current plan is to avoid pregnancy, they merely respect the full meaning of sex during that fertile time and abstain. So these are overlapping circles, and the reason for that is that whatever reason you come for, you can expect to see kind of a ripple effect in other areas. And to give an example of this, I knew when I was looking into NFP that I wanted to be in line with the spiritual aspect of my faith, but I didn't understand the teaching of that. But when I heard some of the talks about the tremendous impact that contraceptives can have on a woman's health, and even on sort of the pheromones and how you select who you're going to be dating, I knew that that wasn't the route that I wanted to take. So I was interested, especially from a biological perspective. My husband came to it for a relational perspective because it's what I wanted to do. But over time, I could see the growth in my spiritual understanding of why that was a good idea, and am now, fully convicted of that. And so even if you're not coming to it for all of the reasons in the beginning, you can expect to see growth in those other areas as well.
So why use NFP? Well, Laura talked a lot about that. From the practical standpoint, there are 3 reasons. I like to give the 3 in this order because I think it's important to understand that NFP is not a method of contraception. So it can be used to achieve pregnancy. Just because a couple takes a course or uses a fertility awareness-based method doesn't mean they're trying to avoid pregnancy. I think there's a misconception out there that people are using some form of natural family planning and they become pregnant. Well, then it didn't work for them. They may have actually been using it to achieve pregnancy. So it is used to achieve pregnancy. It's used also to avoid pregnancy or space pregnancies. The document Humanae Vitae speaks a lot about how to discern, how to use such things to avoid pregnancy, and discernment really involves a lot of prayer with when is it good for the couple to achieve pregnancy, when should the couple try to avoid pregnancy at the time. And also it's used to monitor health, and this is a really important thing too. I didn't mention in an earlier slide, I meant to, but these type of methods can be used with all sorts of cycles. So you can use it with normal cycles and long cycles and short cycles and irregular cycles and anything that comes along. You can use it during anovulatory states, like if you're sometimes like a person who's training for a marathon isn't having cycles. You can use it during that time. You can use it during breastfeeding to detect the onset of fertility coming back. So it can be used for all those things. But this charting is a measure of your health as well, because fertility is a normal, natural thing that happens. And if that isn't happening or things are going wrong in that area, it's a kind of a source of detection that something's off. And so there's something called naprotechnology that is can be used to interpret your charting and to then glean information on how to treat any medical problems that come about. So there's a link for that at the end. I may have overlapped in my next slide, I don't know. So is it effective? Well, actually, yes, it is. For achieving pregnancy, the couple simply selects days of fertility and chooses to engage in the marital act on those days so that then eventually they can achieve pregnancy. I think the Creighton model teaches that by the 6th month, if a couple's trying to achieve pregnancy and they're of normal fertility, they usually conceive, about 99% conceive. Is it effective for avoiding pregnancy? And yes, it is. It's up to 99% effective for avoiding pregnancy. Laura's going to speak on some ways to increase the effectiveness. There's kind of a range of effectiveness based on how well the couple's using the system, and so she's going to speak to that a little bit in the next slide or so. But it's also just important to understand that it does actually work, because a lot of healthcare professionals don't understand and haven't been trained in that. And so I like to put this little note at the bottom here, just says, modern NFP methods are as effective as hormonal and barrier contraceptions. And that we need to speak to this about the physicians, let them know the research, let them investigate it themselves and find out. So 99% effectiveness rates for avoiding pregnancy and spacing pregnancy. And there are a couple of ways to do that. Let's see. Do you want to speak on why, or where are you going with this? Keep going. Okay, so there's just a couple of types of natural family planning. Actually, there's a lot of types of them. There's mucus only, there's symptothermal, there's hormone measuring tools. I have a couple of little pictures of these things. Symptothermal method is what SymptoPro, which Laura teaches, is a symptothermal method. These methods teach you to use the mucus symptom, the temperature system, the cervical check, and also some other things that can help guide that process of discerning your time of fertility. The couple lead teaches the symptothermal method also, and here's kind of an example of what a chart might look like. There's mucus-only methods. The Creighton model, which I teach, is one of those, and based on the Billings ovulation method as well. These just track mucus and track the various times in the cycle when things happen, like when the woman is having her menses. There are hormone measuring tools. We have ovulation tests and monitors that you can use, where a woman simply urinates on a stick, and the monitor reads the level of hormone and tells the woman how close to ovulation she is or how far away she is. So lots of different choices with that.
So in terms of making an NFP class work for you and increasing your rates of effectiveness, we really encourage people to take a course of instruction with a trained instructor and engage in any follow-up afterwards. There are over 100 different fertility apps that are out there right now. Very few of them are actually effective at helping you avoid pregnancy. There's a group called Facts About Fertility who just did a study on this, and they found only 6 of the current apps either had a perfect score on accuracy or no false negatives, and that the majority of fertility apps are neither designed for avoiding pregnancy nor founded on evidence-based fertility awareness-based methods. There's no governing body right now that's checking those, so using an app and getting a book off of the internet, or trying to teach yourself how to do that. There's nobody there that can help make sure you've learned the method correctly, that you're obtaining the data correctly, and there's nobody there that can help when you inevitably come across a chart that you don't know what to do with. So really encouraging you to take the plunge, take a course of instruction, and engage in that follow-up with your instructor. And then following the instructions, not cutting corners on the rules. And then lastly, prayerfully discerning God's will for your family. And they talk about that in Humani Vitae, both about prayerful discernment, but also about, sort of the need to be developing your conscience and developing your understanding of what God wants for you. And I think that prayerful process is a part of that. So incorporating all of these things are going to make NFP an effective tool in your relationship. Is there anything you want to add about that?
No.